There we go.
We are live. Hello, welcome to episode 20 of Talking Tech. I am Dom, I'm your host. Today I have Mark Ramos and Chris Wallace, and a special guest. We have Mr. Paul O'Brien of MoDaCo fame. Say hello.
Hello. Hello.
And the other two, because they're here.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. So, as you may guess, we're podcasting a day late today, and there's a very good reason for that. A, I really wasn't feeling like podcasting yesterday, and B, HTC had an event today. HTC announced their 2016 flagship, and I genuinely forgot what year it was for a second there. Wow. Yep, we've got the HTC 10 that came out today, which is, for better or worse, exactly what I thought it would be. Take that as you will. So I think we should just go straight into it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, if I can load the dock up.
That would have been very useful before, Chris.
Don't blame me, blame the browsers.
Yeah.
What do they say? Bad workman blames his browsers.
Yeah.
It's when the computer doesn't do something you wanted, it's the computer's fault.
Yeah.
No, it's called hit.
Oh no, my keyboard autocorrect. No, you just typed the wrong word.
I'm having that thing going on now where you've got 4 devices on your desk and an email comes in.
4.
Yeah.
Yep, I've got all of those. I then got the watch. I've got a laptop, and it's just at this point the entire desk moves about 3 inches when they all vibrate.
So HTC 10 then. So I think it's probably what everyone expected because there have been so many leaks beforehand, and actually a couple of hours before the embargo dropped today, there's a website posted everything about it. So I think no massive surprises for me. There's some pretty cool stuff in there that's a little bit out of the ordinary. So yeah, and it's got the standard chip, Snapdragon 820, 4 gig of RAM, 32 gig of storage, 5.2-inch QHD screen, all ticks all the right boxes. But there's a couple of cool things there for me. There's OIS on the front camera, which is a little bit unusual. So it's the first device to ship with OIS on both cameras. There's AirPlay support, which
is super strange.
Amazing. Yeah, so that's obviously HTC have done, and then there's just a super focus on audio. So there's like dedicated amps for the headphone, the size of the M9 and that sort of stuff.
It's a different type of focus on audio than what they've done in the past.
Yeah.
Whereas before they were very much for like the dual front firing speakers, stereo sound. This time they're like I've got to turn everything off again. Because everything is going wrong because I said it wouldn't. Mark, do you want to speak about the audio, seeing as that's your forte, whilst I mute everything on my desk?
Yes, the audio, it has a woofer and a tweeter in it. Oh, really? Like, I just took the piss out of the Hurrah R4 because it has a 4-inch drivered sub. And basically stating that, that's not a sub. You can't produce any kind of a real low note with a 4-inch driver. You just can't. And so they've decided that a tweeter and a woofer is going into their phone. This is not about audio. This is about marketing.
Yeah, and like I said, I think they are doing some things. So like the headphone and the speaker have their own amplifiers and everything like that. They are trying to separate things as much. It's like when you see motherboard vendors like what's it called? Cordoning off the audio parts of the PCB for less interference and all that. It's whilst they aren't saying like this is going to replace your hi-fi at home, which they kind of are. They are placing emphasis on something different.
Yeah, I think the argument behind it. I mean, so I've got one here. So I don't know if you can see that. So you got the speaker at the top, and then you got this one at the bottom here.
Was there something at the top rapidly flashing there?
Yeah, that's notification LED there, yeah. So you'll also notice that finally HTC have put the charging port in the middle of the bottom.
I don't like.
Pretty cool.
One thing I don't like.
But the fingerprint scanner is not center. I found that out.
Vertically, no.
No, the fingerprint scanner is not centered on the front of the device.
Yeah, at least it's centered horizontally,
Yeah.
But yeah. So the thing is, they're saying that the speaker at the top is a tweeter because you need that to be firing at you, and then with the kind of lower frequency tones coming out the bottom of the phone, it's less directional, isn't it? So that's their argument marginally. I mean, like you say, it's not a sub. It never will be. But
well, it's not that. It's by all means, they may be better quality speakers than most people chuck in phones. Fair enough, absolutely do that. But you don't need a separate woofer and a tweeter because of the size of them. What you need is two reasonable speakers and stick them at either end if you're trying to get any kind of stereo separation.
I think the problem is that having boom sound was causing them problems with the form factor, having both on the front, and this has allowed them to save a bit of space that way. And actually the P9 has the same setup with a kind of tweeter at the top and then lower range coming out the bottom, so it's not unique
but how many people were saying that the problem with the previous HTCs was, oh my god, this is 5 millimeters taller than the Samsung.
Well, there's people bitching about that. Though,
it was really tall. It was a 5-inch phone that was very comparable to a 5.5-inch phone. I mean, there are ways to do front-firing speakers properly.
Yeah, I mean,
I've got the Idol 3 here. This is the smaller one, and these two slivers are the speakers, and they're not the best in the world, but they are very loud. They have a fair amount of depth. And I really love it.
You've got speaker there and speaker there. It's not a thick phone. Look, there's no 1M8 boom sound, which I kind of enjoyed so much. But they get loud and they're front firing. What more do you want out your speakers?
Yeah, I have to say, the M8 and the M7, were the best sounding, and I don't think you'll recreate that with this kind of setup. But it's all about compromises, really. So, I'm pretty happy.
I had both.
So,
I still own my M7.
I want the. I think it's very odd that HTC's moved away from stereo front speakers, especially when they essentially pioneered them on mobile devices. It's very odd to see them pivot away and try and remarket this as that. They're essentially just overdriving the earpiece into, or technically under. Whatever. They're just the earpiece is pulling double duty here. But like I said, when I said it's exactly what I expected, for better or for worse, it's not just because the entire thing leaked out. But if you asked someone who's roughly into technology what a flagship phone in 2016 would have, you'd pretty much get this. 5-ish inch Quad HD display, Snapdragon 820, 3 or 4 gigs of RAM, 3000 mAh battery. It's essentially a cookie cutter phone.
Cookie cutter.
but you have to put that stuff in nowadays. That's the stuff that you've got to have in the phone. So, I mean, what are the bits that are a bit unique then? I mean, what stands out for you on the spec sheet?
I'm trying to think. I mean, USB-C with USB 3.1 is a big one. A lot of things are having USB-C, but a lot of them are running USB 2.0.
Yeah, it does charge. It's got quick charge 3.0 as well, so it does charge up super fast, and it comes with I believe
it actually comes with
charger
an
in the
adapter
box.
as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I would have said the 12 megapixel camera if it's not the exact same sensor used in the Nexus devices. So it's all about HTC's processing at this point.
Yeah, but it's a 6P sensor, I believe, but with OIS, so that obviously helps a lot because you don't get that on the 6P.
Oh, the 6P has. Oh no, it doesn't. No,
the camera's still pretty good on it.
Yeah, I remember when Google was just like, yeah, don't worry, the larger pixels negate the need for OIS, and I'm like, keep saying that to yourself.
Yeah, anyone that says that is bollocks. I mean, it's the same with the P9. It's got a great camera, but there's no OIS, and it would help. But it takes up space, so you can get a thinner device.
If I could get my hands on a P9, I'd be very happy. From what I've seen, everything I've seen so far, it really does look great. And we're going to speak about the P9 later on. But I think one of the surprising things for me about the HTC 10, which is there's no more 1 and there's no more M, it's just HTC 10, is just how much they pared down Sense. They've gotten rid of.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say not paid enough.
Well,
you can still say that, but it's a lot easier to Nexusify this than it was previous HTC phones. The multitasking interface is the same as, which is the Rolodex card style. It's got essentially the AOSP quick toggles now.
Yeah, I mean, there's barely any sense there, and there's a few apps where they've gone through and they've said, our version is better than, the Google version.
And there's a couple where they've gone, actually, Google's version is better than ours. So they've got rid of HTC Gallery, but they kept HTC Camera, stuff like that.
And they've got Calendar. With Photos, they've actually worked with Google to put RAW support in the Photos app and a few other proprietary bits. So that's quite cool. Just going through now. Yeah, it's super slim. I mean, you got flashlight and little things like that, but it feels virtually a Nexus device. I mean, even the colors are all kind of regular Nexus. So
I mean, slap the Google camera, Google Now launcher on there, and I don't know if
you wouldn't want the Google camera though, would you? Because it's crap.
Sorry, Google Keyboard and Google Now launcher, not Google camera. But I don't know if Google ever re-uploaded the dialer to Play Store. If they did, you can even have the Google dialer. But the thing that really vexes me is they went back to capacitive buttons. And those of you who know me know I really, really hate capacitive and physical buttons.
See, I'm the other way. I think it's having them on screen is effectively a waste of screen real estate. And since they've got to put a fingerprint reader on the front anyway.
Did they have to put it on the front, or did they choose to put it on the front?
Well, they didn't have to, but it's actually
on the back.
I'm actually happy with it both places. On the P9 it's on the back. On the S7 and the 10 it's on the front. Having it on the front is more convenient when it's sitting on the desk, no question. But overall, don't make a huge amount of difference.
To me, I find it better on the back.
I mean, it swings and roundabouts at the end of the day. Like I said, there are benefits. If you're taking it out of your pocket all the time, on the back is better. If you leave your phone on the desk a lot of the time and you don't want to pick it up, just have it on the front is.
You know what the easy way to, if you keep your phone on the desk, is to stop being a lazy fuck and just pick it up.
That's also another thing. Or you can do what I do. I have like one of those floating like arm grip things that clip to the desk. So I've got one of those.
So you just slide your finger down the gap.
Yeah, on the back. It's actually like just off screen. It's where I've got my podcast note sheet on my phone here.
Is that what you use that for?
Yeah, pretty much.
What the hell is that for?
And if I'm not podcasting, I put it sideways and I put YouTube on because it's got stereo speakers. That's my Idol 3 4.7 is essentially just an iPod at this point. That's. I'm not sure that's what Alcatel want me to say. Alcatel, please sell me an Idol 4. But it's a really great little iPod.
What do you do with spare phones though? That have no SIM card in. You literally don't use them or you use them as iPods.
I think I use one of them as an XBMC remote for my projector.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't generally keep phones that I wouldn't use, personally, but if I've got like a bunch of phones that I would happily use, I try and keep the same software on them all and keep them all up to date, and then I can just bung my SIM in and pick up whichever one I feel like on that day. Or if I run out of battery halfway through the day, I'll just switch to another one.
My problem with that one is I always forget to reprovision WhatsApp.
Oh yeah.
And it's just all the time.
That is crap, isn't it? I don't really understand why they can't set up WhatsApp and WeChat and that kind of stuff to actually work on more than one device.
I think it's because they tie it so heavily into a mobile number rather than
but, I mean, if you're swapping your SIM, it should just... If you're swapping your SIM from phone to phone, when you fire up the app, it should be able to like run it through a network test.
Or like you just store it on the phone until you, in theory, uninstall or reinstall the app.
To be honest, I think they would be much better if they just moved away from having the SIM card to do anything to do with it. Just simply have a username and a password, and you can log into 5 devices all at once if you want, and they all work just in the same way that Hangouts does.
I mean that's the thing though. Is you don't
they
have
use the phone number.
Yeah, you don't have to remember yet another.
But what they could do like Viber did, where you I sign in on multiple devices. I I think the way WhatsApp, whenever you set WhatsApp up, anyone will always notice that it tries to. The only system it's ever been is it sends the text, gives you and then reads the text, reads his texts for the code. Whereas Viber was very much it sends you a text, you input the code manually.
I mean, for the longest time, WhatsApp was like that. The new one's only recent.
Yeah. I think these things are basically all set up with normal people in mind.
Exactly.
Who have one phone.
Yeah.
Maybe one tablet.
Yeah. I mean, the only way I can think of getting around this is if you've got two-factor authentication set up, it should allow you to sign into as many as you want, because if you're going through that much effort to sign into something else, it's probably...
I think this would be a good little exposed hack to actually enable it to switch around between devices by spoofing the Android ID or whatever. You know, I suppose no one's done it yet, to be honest.
That might get me to root again.
Yeah.
I haven't rooted since the first gen Moto. I haven't rooted since the first gen Moto G. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, there's definitely less need to do it nowadays. No question.
Yeah, I mean,
still use Hangouts and not have to bother with that.
See, as much as I like Hangouts, it needs to get more reliable and, not freeze every 5 seconds.
And not mess around with Google Chrome and start sending audio really high-pitched and fuzzy and, oh god, it's just genuinely destroying your ears.
I'm really interested to see what happens with Google and carriers trying to do RCS to essentially make iMessage, but for everyone else. I want to see how that would work, again, using an open standard like RCS. But from what I understand, RCS is kind of a less than I'm trying to think of the right word here.
Doable?
No, not doable. It's just not the best thing. It could be a lot better.
Practical.
Yes, there you go. It's not the most practical system in the world. So before we get to
I was going to say, back on top.
Yeah. So basically, HTC 10, because God forbid the HTC have a consistent naming structure to anything they do. I think we've all basically gone, oh, that's a nice new phone, and we care.
I'm glad they didn't give it the M name, actually.
I mean, did they give a reason why they didn't go 1 or they didn't do M?
Not that I've seen.
No, I think it's kind of 10 years since they made their first phone or something. So, yeah.
No, their first, actual phone, not white label.
Yeah, I think it was something along those lines, but...
I'm glad that they didn't, because with the A9, if anyone ever read my review, the one thing you'll know is what I said about it was not proper boom sound, it wasn't front-facing, therefore, to me, it wasn't an M series phone.
Fair enough. I mean, again, it's important to note this isn't a 1 phone either.
It's not even a 1 phone, yeah, so even better.
I think that brand is effectively dead at this point. It lasted 3 generations.
It had so much potential. I mean, the fact that it was an M, and I grant that, originally it started as a code name, the idea was just to call it the HTC One. Yeah. But, they've made this phone and they've tried to plug audio so much. Well, they could have run with M for music. Have that as a sub-branding, have that as a theme. Saying, this is the best phone for music. It sounds great when it plays. Oh, the headphones too. Well, they're also super good.
Oh, speaking of headphones, HTC has partnered with JBL to make USB-C headphones for this phone. I am so excited. Anyone that knows me knows that I have a set of Zorlu Zeros, which are micro USB powered. Mark has just reviewed their higher end version called the Aero, which come in Lightning, micro USB, and USB-C.
You don't have a Type-C device, though.
Yeah, but then I don't know.
I will tomorrow.
I'm slightly perplexed by this USB-C one because it doesn't seem to specify. Does it run its own separate DAC in there? Because if so, then
I highly assume so. Unless it's.
That's what I'd assume, but then surely that's sort of semi-defeating the point of putting decent audio into the thing in the first place, because they've also got 2 other pairs of earphones that are not USB-C. So I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, HTC, WTF, what are you doing?
I think that's most people's reaction to HTC at this point. HTC, what are you doing?
Go home, drunk.
I've got to say though, I've got Xiaomi Pistons I use as my kind of daily driver headphones, and on the 10 they do sound better than on any other device. When you first plug in and start listening to stuff, it gives you an option to do a personal audio profile.
Okay.
And basically, it plays various frequencies. Well, it plays various frequencies of tones at you, and you have like a volume control, and you say, oh, what's the lowest volume you can hear it on, and you kind of do that for kind of 4 or 5 different tones in each ear, and then it builds a personal audio profile for you. So if you can hear better in one ear or whatever, then it kind of auto corrects it.
That's quite good actually.
And the sound from it is pretty amazing.
I imagine that would be a bit weird at first, though.
I mean, it depends. If it's like perfectly suited to like your ears, then it has a. Let's say we might not even get an HTC 10, seeing as how much we've just bashed it in the first 20 minutes.
Well, they could prove us wrong. I mean, I very much would like them to send me one to see, if it is awesome. I think perhaps HTC simply have a communications problem. I don't think they're the best company in the world at promoting themselves or having any kind of consistent message. So the confusion is running around. I mean, we are the crazy tech nerd people, and we're sitting looking at it and thinking, I don't understand what they're doing. I don't get it. I'd love to get one in, but I don't.
Speaking of, I'm not sure what the hell they're doing. Chris and Mark won't know this because I only said it to Paul. We're going to skip the next 2 and jump to the G5.
Right.
Okay.
Skipping them all together.
Huh?
We're skipping them all together, or are we coming back?
No, they're going to come in later because Paul has to go off in about 20 odd minutes.
Okay, I'll put them on at the end then.
Well, thanks, Chris. So the LG G5. Speaking of people not sure what they're doing, LG has been doing some. Nope. I wanted to be surprised at the results from these reviews, but I wasn't. Like the whole modular friends thing was not half up.
I still think the modular thing, it's a bit too early to tell. I think if LG really commits to it, and this becomes an ongoing next year, you don't have to upgrade your entire phone. You can just upgrade the screen. Oh, you could just upgrade the processor. You could
but
just upgrade
this isn't that type of modular. This is the wrong type of modular. The right type of modular is what Google's trying to do with Aura, which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
what
what
LG's doing is like, yo, this super high-end phone, it's not even complete yet. We can sell you a DAC if you want. A DAC which isn't going to work in the US or just North America in general. Phones refuse to boot up with this DAC installed.
I think that the fact that the 2 friends they came up with at the start were the DAC and the kind of useless camera grip kind of says it all about how many ideas they have for actually making it useful.
Yeah, Mark, because you have to turn the phone off to swap the camera friend modules, they have little identifier chips in them. If you're in North America and you put the DAC in, the phone will refuse to boot because it's not FCC certified.
Oh, for
right.
sake. Is all I'm going to say.
Which is absolutely hilarious to me.
Well, the other thing is,
but one would presume that they're applying for certification. And
I don't know. Apparently they've removed the essentially all mention of the Hi-Fi Plus or whatever it's called from the US LG site.
To be fair, it sounds like it's not very good anyway from the reviews I've read.
Yeah, so. From what I hear, the actual headphone and amp and stuff in the phone is actually quite good anyway. So the difference between that and the B&O Hi-Fi Plus isn't actually all that evident.
Yeah.
And the battery in the phone is quite abysmal to begin with. So the extra 800 or so milliamp you get from the Cam Plus doesn't really do all that much anyway because the camera is one of the biggest battery sucks in a phone, and when you're adding another accessory to take more advantage of that, you're just going to suck down that power faster no matter how much extra you're putting in. It's like trying to charge an iPad Pro with a normal charger. If you're using it at the same time, the battery just depletes. It can't even sustain it.
Like a fat person doing some exercise.
Yeah. it's like I said, I wanted to be surprised at the results from these LG G5 reviews, but I think the most brutal. I put one for The Verge in our podcast notes, but I think the most brutal one was the first one that came out, which was from Android Police. Did any of you guys read that one?
I can't say I did.
Well, that was the one with the picture of the air gap in the bottom, wasn't it? I mean,
again, it was just brutal.
I mean, as soon as I saw the G5 specs and I saw the 2,800 milliamp hour battery or whatever it is, I was immediately put off. I'm not a big fan of the LG software. For me, the G2 was the great LG device. The G3 didn't like. G4 was okay, but yeah, it's too much of a compromise making this removable stuff. And I think, when Google start doing their projects, whatever it's called, can't remember. Yeah, Project Hurrah. I think we'll see this as well. As soon as you have to have it interconnects and make things fit together, you start losing, space in the device that you can use for other stuff. So, LG are a bit suffering from that. They don't seem to be able to build in the engineering tolerances to make it fit together properly. The metal back isn't a metal back properly.
Yeah, that was another funny thing for me.
Yeah. And then, there's no coherent design language on it at all. Which is, if nothing else, HTC, even Huawei, Samsung with the Edge, the design fits together. It looks like, someone's actually designed a device rather than thrown some concepts at a phone and then built it and called it the G5.
The G5 looks like multiple different teams designed it, and they were never allowed to speak to each other.
Yeah.
They all had rough napkin drawings and were like, look, make them work. That's what the G5 feels like to me, and in software as well.
Yeah.
The apps don't look like they were designed by the same teams either.
What's the pricing like on the G5 in the UK?
I think it's slightly less than the S7, but not by much.
Yeah, because the HTC 10 is exactly the same price as the S7 basically.
And that is insane. HTC is high and drunk.
High and drunk.
They are high and drunk.
I bet that's what you wish you were right now, isn't it, Dom? High and drunk.
So much. So much.
Can they legitimately charge that though? Because it's basically the same specs, the same tier of device.
But no one's going to buy it.
There we go.
I mean,
SIM-free pricing is largely irrelevant for 99% of people anyway. So it'd be interesting to see what comes through out on contracts for that. So.
True. Like I was saying, for a lot of people, they don't see off-contract pricing at all. They see the iPhone for £32 a month.
Yeah, I think this is probably a good point to kind of segue into this. So 449 undercuts the S7 and the HTC 10 by 120 quid, and to all intents and purposes, it's right up there as a flagship spec device. What do you guys think of the P9?
I've not looked into it, but from brief overview, I can't see it being an issue.
Just quick thing, the G5 is 500 SIM-free from Carphone.
Yeah, it's a bit cheaper, but not massively.
No. With regards to the P9, I want one. I want a signed edition one actually. Because I have a real issue with EMUI. It's changed a lot and it's gotten a lot better over the years. But whereas what we were saying with the HTC 10, whereas they didn't change the notification shade, they didn't change the multitasking menu, they didn't change some very fundamental things about Android. Huawei went, fuck it, we want to.
Yeah, I think
they've changed a lot in EMUI. I don't like the multitasking menu. I definitely do not like the timeline notification shade.
I think EMUI hasn't really got any better, particularly over the years, but the amount of stuff that Google have kind of pushed to the Play Store makes it more bearable. You don't have to use their launcher or their calendar or their keyboard or any of that stuff. I mean, the notification pull down is still a bit annoying, and the multitasking and stuff. I can't remember what it's like on the P9 actually. Yeah, so it's kind of like.
Is it still like the 4 cards?
Yeah, the sideways view kind of thing. So yeah.
No, it's even worse than it was before. Great. That's
right. Yeah.
That's like iOS 6 levels. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Huawei.
So I mean, I don't really mind the timeline thing in the notifications. There you go. So you kind of get like a little time.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
see, I actually quite like that.
That looks cool.
And then the kind of notification toggles aren't too bad. I mean, it's not that offensive. I mean, it's nowhere near AOSP. But
I think what's worse is not the fact that it's now timeline orientated. It's the fact that it's been themed so weirdly that it just breaks a lot of notifications still. Some, especially Google notifications, for whatever reason, seem to break quite often whenever they do app updates. So like it'll be like black text on a near black background with no border whatsoever. And
actually, I have to say they have fixed that, and they fixed that in a new release of the Honor 7 as well. But what does happen is you get apps like eBay and things that do something a bit odd with their notifications. They look really hideous. But I think we'll never really see a CyanogenMod build for this because it's the Kirin CPU.
Yeah.
There's that's not a very well supported CPU, which is a shame because it's pretty awesome. It's got those A72 cores. It's mega battery efficient. It's right up there with the best of them for performance.
It's essentially a smaller Mate 8 at this point. I mean, it's a 955, so it's slightly higher clocked than the 950 and the Mate 8.
Yeah. The Mate 8 though is amazing. The battery life on that thing is just nuts.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous.
Which I say only has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery.
Milliamp hour, yeah.
Yeah, which is 30% more than this, 33% more than this.
But the P9, no question, lasts longer for me than the HTC 10 or the S7 Edge, S7, sorry. So with the same size 3,000 milliamp hour battery, it is doing well.
Yeah.
But the dual cameras, obviously, are what the kind of big thing is.
Yeah, I mean, like, cameras are kind of the big thing for everyone this year, and it's one of those things that have lagged for a long time behind specific other products from another company. So everyone is trying to go at it this year. I mean, Samsung went at it last year, but this year is where they really went for it. So Samsung has the every pixel on our sensor is now an autofocus point. It's f1.7. It's what's it called? HTC said we've now got optically stabilized on both cameras. Again, like f1.8, big pixels. LG's like we have a super wide angle one, we have a normal angle one, which is useless. And Huawei has said we've got a black and white one and a color one that essentially just make that 3 times more light than other sensors, something like that.
Yeah, that's right, because you don't have to have the RGB filter on the monochrome camera. Yeah, you can use that to pull in a lot more light and then kind of get more detail on your color shots from that. And of course, you can take pretty awesome black and white pictures as well. So it's nice to see someone doing dual cameras and not making it just a complete gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I mean, they do gimmicky stuff with it. Like there are like certain modes. But that's not the main point of having this second camera is to legitimately improve the default experience, which isn't something we like. When HTC did the dual camera, it was definitely a gimmick. LG doing a dual camera, it's definitely a gimmick. Like, even though it's got like Leica branding, which is kind of weird at this point, seeing as Leica, kind of like most companies will just slap their name on anyone that pays enough money at this point. It seems to actually have done something worthwhile in this. The biggest thing for me is that Huawei have actually stepped up the image signal processor on the Kirin chip itself. Because for the longest time, along with the appalling GPUs they had terrible image signal processors. And with the 950 and the 955, they seem to have really bucked up their ideas, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, from what I've seen so far, it just takes really good pictures. There's none of this. The actual dual cameras is integrated well into the phone. You don't know 99% of the time that there's 2 cameras there. Yeah,
so, you just get a really good camera once you've hit the shutter button.
It's interesting to see everyone kind of standardizing on 12 megapixels all of a sudden.
Yeah, like I said, what was it? The IMX 377 is a sensor that most of them are using. I don't think that's what Huawei is using. I think that's a different one altogether. But I know the Nexus devices, the new HTC devices, and I think some Galaxy S7s are using this 12 megapixel, 1.55 micron Sony sensor, and I say some Galaxy S7s because Samsung made a custom ISO cell sensor.
I've got an ISO cell in mine, and the last one I had was ISO cell as well.
I mean, they're functionally identical. There are a few changes here and there, obviously, just the fact of them being from different companies, but they are functionally identical. And like I said, at this point, we really are just down to how each company implements their post-processing, which is something that Apple has generally done very well at, even back to the iPhone 5. Mark, we haven't heard a lot about you because you've actually got a P8, haven't you?
I do have a P8.
So does anything on the P9 make you want to drop the P8 and get a P9, or?
Is it a big enough jump over this if this was my only phone? No, probably not. But I think that's largely because I actually still really like the P8. I recently bought the the leather, view thingy case. Because when that first came out, it was like 20 odd quid, and it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not paying that for a case that I haven't seen. Right, not happening. But it's now that it's a bit older, it dropped to a fiver, and so I thought, hey, go for it. Huawei does lots of nice little things to it that I kind of like. EMUI, I don't hate it. I slap on Nova Launcher, it covers up all the things that I don't like about it. The notifications drawer is fine. I don't have a problem with it.
What would be your main complaints about the P8, would you say?
The P8, I want it to have a bigger battery. I don't care how thin it is, because it's very thin, and I do not give a shit. I want a much bigger... The battery life does last reasonably well, so whatever power sippy savings they've done are nice, but I'm sorry, I want a battery that is humongous.
I mean, you do also have an Elephone P8000, which does have a humongous battery in it.
Yeah, it's got 4,000 milliamp.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have both ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah. At the other end, I have an Nexus 5, which lasts a good 20 minutes on a good day. So yeah, there is a. Sorry.
What size is the battery? Is it like 2700 or something, isn't it? In the
P8? No, is it not like 2250? I remember at the time thinking it's really small.
Let me have a quick GSM Arena for you.
So it's interesting that they've kind of got that bigger battery in the P9, and it's literally half a millimeter thicker. So.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I find that all these manufacturers that are going to super thin. I mean, Paul, I suspect you might remember things like the Sony Ericsson P800, P900.
Oh yeah.
Things
2680,
like that.
By the way.
2680. Those phones were humongously thick. Never had a problem with them. I have no problem with, say, the P8 if it was twice as thick and it had a 6,000 milliamp hour battery.
Yeah.
I think it's not just thickness at that point, though. Doubling the size of the cell, it adds considerable weight as well.
But again, I'm fine with that. I'm not a frail, delicate little flower that can't lift a phone that weighs 180 grams.
But for example, so the P9 is 144 grams, so it's pretty light, 6.95 millimeters thick with a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, and the Mate 8, which is another device I've got here, is 7.9 millimeters thick and 185 grams. So it's not massively heavier. It's not massively thicker. I mean, obviously it's got the 6-inch screen on the front, but yeah, it can be done. And there's a couple of Xiaomi devices, the Redmi 3 and the Redmi Note 3 Pro, that both got 4,000 milliamp hour batteries as well. And neither of those are, uncomfortably thick or uncomfortably heavy. So. Well,
exactly. I mean, the one that I keep kind of looking to, and I wish to God I could in some way justify buying it.
Is the crazy.
Yes, with the 10,000 milliamp hour battery.
Is it the Ukitel?
Yeah, a phone with a 10 amp hour battery is just insane.
Well, I was actually thinking about buying that just to use as a battery bank as well.
Yeah.
because you can kind of charge other stuff off it. So
I mean,
Oh, yes.
Amazon have it for about £150 at the moment, and it's just like, if I had enough disposable income to, that at that point it's not even a phone. Like it's a power brick. It's a demolition device because it's
I
like
tell you
just
what,
made
it
out
would
of
be
like
great
steel.
for tethering. It could
Yeah,
be
it'd be a
the
great
Wi-Fi
hotspot.
device.
Yeah, it'd be a great MiFi, which kids ask your parents what a MiFi is.
They still exist. In fact,
Do they?
someone had a
Yes.
Wi-Fi device. Yeah, I was sat in college and I decided I'd just take the Samsung that runs Linux. If you read my review, stick Linux on an old computer, preferably Mint, and you'll be getting another couple of years out of it. And I was like, let's see if I can connect to the college network, see if they're absolute dickheads or not. Turns out they're absolute dickheads anyway, that's what I thought. And up came Vodafone, MiFi, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay.
So they are still out there in the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do exist, and I also know a friend's parents who live in the Suffolk countryside.
Suffolk.
my part of
yeah.
ish.
Essentially, where it's a farm basically. So BT supplies them a good half a meg. So basically, they get a much better, more reliable, and faster connection using a MiFi.
I think me and Mark cover like the farthest end of the country from each other, and then we just have like guests from somewhere in between. I'm down in Hastings, and Mark is up in Scotland.
Yeah.
Mm.
Unfortunately, guys, I'm going to have to love you and leave you, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely fine. Do you want to tell the people where they can get you?
So, yeah, head on over to MoDaCo.com. I'll be posting my thoughts on the P9, the HTC 10, all the other devices I've got kicking around. And if you have any questions, I'm at Paul O'Brien on Twitter. Feel free to fire away, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Brilliant.
But,
Thanks for joining us this evening.
No worries. Thanks for having me, guys, and have a good one.
Thanks. See ya.
Cheers.
Yeah.
It's nice having Paul, actually.
Yeah, it's actually a bit weird. It's actually a bit weird how someone just break out like 15 minutes before the end.
I know. But because the last topic we have, or the last two topics really, don't actually require Paul, that's why I asked for them to be moved. So, as we all know, 3 wants to buy O2.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not sounding like a drunk record or broken record or whatever you want to
I'd
call it.
love to see what a drunk record looks like. Is that slightly wobbly in one single plate?
It goes around like that. Way.
But yeah, no. 3 wants to buy O2, and a lot of regulatory agencies want to stop that happening, despite BT being allowed to buy EE with no repercussions whatsoever. Blah blah blah. I've spoken about that at length.
Yeah, honestly,
This time,
I want to know how big a fucking check did BT write?
Yeah.
I mean, what does BT do? They like pop round people's house, and say, oh, well, when you stop being a regulator, would you fancy a job?
Would you like a 6-figure job with us?
We'll just make it rain money on you.
Do you remember that scene in the first Harry Potter film where the letters just fly from every orifice? That's what BT does with money.
Yes, because that's the only possible way that they getting away with this.
Yeah.
Because I cannot believe. Yeah, you go, because I'm just apoplectic.
Yeah. So the CMA, the Competition and Marketing Authority in the UK, has expressed serious concerns regarding the deal for 3 owners, Hutchinson One Power, to buy O2 from Telefonica.
Yeah. What that means is they have serious concerns regarding how little money Hutchinson's thrown at them. That's what they're concerned about.
See, the thing is, it's not just like Hutchinson One Power should be worried. Fucking Telefonica should be shitting as well. They need this money. They need to offload O2 UK.
Yeah, Telefonica, they desperately need the cash because they are stupid. But on the opposite side, Deutsche Telekom and France Telecom in particular probably don't really want it to happen.
Yeah, no, I get that. for those of you who don't know, Deutsche Telekom runs T-Mobile in many parts of the world. Deutsche Telekom obviously makes up part of EE, which was a joint merger of Orange in the UK and T-Mobile in the UK, who is the current largest provider by far, we should say. Like I said, it's annoying to me that BT, the largest by far broadband, landline, infrastructure, and now, so the largest in all those markets, was allowed to buy the largest by far mobile provider with no repercussions whatsoever.
Can we just say they're landline monopolist, because that's basically what they are. If you want just a copper pair phone line into your house, BT is your one and only option. Yeah. If you are fortunate enough to live in a virgin area, that's the only way you have the potential for not giving BT money. And
unless you are so rich you can afford to lay your own fibre.
Yeah, which even then you're probably getting BT to do it for you.
Yeah.
You know, it is essentially impossible, and a great many people in the country will, I'm sure, pay their money to TalkTalk or pay their money to Sky, and as far as they might think that they have no connection whatsoever to BT, however, the physical wire, that's owned by BT. All that happens is when you pay Sky the line rental, they just pass that money straight on to the monopolists. Yes. So that's essentially why BT, no matter how badly, and it is badly run, still makes money hand over fist, because more than half the country has absolutely no choice but to give them money.
It's way more than half the country.
90%, I'd say.
But like I said, it annoys me that BT, which is the biggest landline broadband and infrastructure, was allowed to buy EE. Yeah, which makes them the top dog in every market that matters. Yeah,
By far.
By far, yeah, by far. 3 and O2, the two smallest carriers in the UK. As you know, I think O2 is bigger than Vodafone just.
Yes.
Either way.
And in fairness,
them two merging would make them the biggest. That would still only be in mobile.
Yeah, this is the thing that's you've got to keep in mind. O2 recently divested all their broadband infrastructure and telephone lines resale provision, so they are mobile only. That's it. That's all they do. 3 likewise is mobile only. That's it. They do mobile, nothing else.
3 is even more mobile than O2, seeing as they don't even have any legacy masts. They're all 3G and 4G.
Still mobile masts.
Yeah, I know, but I mean they're not legacy masts. They are
old.
By nature of the technology, they are newer than most of the 2G enabled masts. Because again, carriers don't even own the masts; they lease them from other companies. Companies like Siemens and Nokia and trying to think who else.
Those are the companies that provide the equipment, but the actual networks themselves are run by, and the masts are run by joint agreements. There's an agreement between O2 and Vodafone. They essentially split the UK in half, and I think it's Vodafone does the northern half and O2 does the southern half.
I think it might be the other way around.
It could be. Either way, so they share. And 3 and T-Mobile had a sharing agreement, so they shared masts and such, and essentially that continued when T-Mobile and Orange got together. So essentially, EE and 3 mast share.
For a little while until that agreement runs out.
I don't think that won't get that'll get continued.
You think?
Yes, yeah. It's much more cost effective. There is absolutely no good reason not to do it. So that will continue. However, the part of the issue was that if the 3/EE, who all have mast sharing, essentially network, using the same physical sites, then joins up with O2, who has the sharing agreement with Vodafone. It kind of starts getting a little bit more complicated. But essentially, all the networks begin to have to play nice. However,
and we can see they don't want to do that.
Well, they like to screw each other a bit, but it's also more cost effective, and it would also buy into the government's plan that essentially mobile coverage needs to get a damn sight better, so that there should be nowhere that the Prime Minister can bugger off on holiday and not get a phone signal.
Pretty much.
So, I mean, it would be in everybody's best interest if they kind of all play nice. But the fact that this regulatory body has come out and said, we are concerned that 3, who has always been the market disruptor in the UK since it launched, is in some way going to have negative impact on the consumer is just absolutely out bloody rageous.
Yeah. So like we said,
how they can do it with
the CMA has serious concerns, and then like a couple of hours later, I want to say like 6 hours later, Hutchinson Whampoa was just like, that's bollocks. I mean, that I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Oh my god, I would fucking love it if Hutchinson Whampoa issued a press release saying, that's bollocks. But yeah, Hutchinson Whampoa was just like, that's not going to happen. They said branding them one-sided. So yeah, that's just... Hutch responded by calling out both Ofcom and the CMA's decision to approve the BTEE merger. Something I think we just briefly said something about that. It's the very same thing. Like I said, it seems a lot more damaging to the UK economy to let the monopolist of 3 entities become a monopolist in 4 entities than let the second and fourth largest mobile-only providers merge.
Yeah, and I mean the scope it gives. I mean, part of the concern that people like Virgin and Sky have also had concerns about the BT and EE merger is BT have made it quite clear they want to get into TV.
Yes.
You know, they paid lots of stupid money for people kicking a ball. But apparently BT thinks that was worth hundreds of millions of pounds. And the ability that they then have as a quad play operator, which means they sell you your landline phone, they sell you your mobile phone, they sell you your broadband that comes through the phone line, and they sell you a mobile phone.
Which a lot of people don't realise, the reason you have to take out line rental, unless you're in an area with Virgin, the reason you have to take out line rental is because your internet, although it might be branded as fibre, is actually a hybrid network. It's a fibre backbone, but until from your house to that green cabinet, it's copper. It's just more cost effective that way.
Yeah, and BT owns that copper.
And that in your phone line comes over that copper cable. It's that one that runs overhead to your house. And that's where your internet also comes, and that's why you have to have $17.50 line rental to take out your fucking £20 broadband.
Yes, it's your fee to BT essentially. That's their cut.
Yes.
So no matter who you go with, if you go with TalkTalk and they say, £5, the line rental, that's BT's extortion fee for being a monopolist.
And that's how life goes on.
And like I said, it's really hard not to call them like a bully, the monopolist, the incumbent, like because they are.
Oh yeah. I mean the number of occasions where, particularly sort of small villages where there's been somebody with a fairly sort of active local council, and they've decided they want to get their village proper internet because BT supplies them, half a meg, and it's crap and it's unreliable. So they've looked into, getting a proper internet backbone out to their village, and then connect themselves up separately. And they look into all the costings for this. They maybe start, and then BT comes along and goes, "Oh well, we'll just for half the amount." Roll out our VDSL option and completely undercut you and completely make everywhere non-financially viable. And BT have essentially done that all across the country, to the point where even the Ofcom had to admonish BT, because what BT's magical little trick was doing is on their website that told you when they were going to roll out fibre, what they would do is they would say, coming in first quarter. And then when it would get to the end of that quarter, it would then suddenly change, coming second quarter. And then coming third quarter. Myself, my exchange did that for 2 years. So it effectively means that no other company can compete.
Unless like they want to do a Virgin and say, give the big FU to BT and lay their own. But as we can see, Virgin Media has been active for, what, a decade at this point?
And bear in mind that all the former companies that Virgin is now comprised of essentially took on so much debt they all went tits up. And this is why Virgin pretty much will not lay new cable.
Yeah, at this point. They can't afford to. No matter how much money they may be making in other ventures, no.
Yeah, they just, in fairness to them, because essentially BT has the ability to roll out at a cost that nobody else can compete with, because they've got the existing infrastructure, BT screws everybody.
Yay, money. So, I think this, before we get any more pissed off, is where we have to finish today.
Under an hour once again.
We're just going to go into absolute rants. I mean, how BT has gotten away with buying EE
with no changes whatsoever,
and all the implications that there are. I mean, you know, if you look, you know, Vodafone and Sky and TalkTalk were all screaming bloody murder, you know, quite vociferously and quite, you know, well justified. Yeah. It's staggering that then this comes out with the tiny little single play 3 who has consistently in the UK for the last, you know, decade and a half.
About 2001, 2002. Yeah.
Right, the market disruptor without any doubt whatsoever.
They pushed forward 3G. They pushed forward video calling.
They pushed cheaper is what they pushed more than anything.
And data. Like I said, they may not be the cheapest by far anymore, but they still are cheaper a lot of the time for the amount of data they give you. They realized very early on that 500 meg wasn't going to cut it anymore.
No. And the fact that they're being held up as we don't want these people in control. Yeah, the reason they don't want those people in control of anything because they don't write big bloody checks to Ofcom ex-employees. That's why.
So, I have been Dom. I am at mobile_Dom on Twitter. Mark is at Mark2410. Chris is at ChrisWallace959. And the site is at MTTFeed. That is www.mobiletechtalk.co.uk. Instagram, we are MobileTechTalk. Facebook, MobileTechTalk UK. YouTube and Google+, just search for MobileTechTalk. And lastly, our Patreon, patreon.com/MobileTechTalk. If you give us some money, we can make better shit for you. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me this week. And again, thank you to our guest, Paul, Mr. Paul O'Brien, at Paul O'Brien on Twitter, PAULOBRIEN. Oh, and breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, although I was just thinking with you reading the Patreon, it's like, yeah, because EE sure as fuck aren't going to give us anything ever again.
BT on, EE on, HTC on, like, we're burning all manner of bridges today.
I said nice things about Huawei, and I still think the G5, I still kind of clinging to the hope that if they continue the modularity, that this could become an ongoing thing.
The thing is, they'd have to make the next phone the exact same dimensions.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Have you felt a G5? It's shite.
No, I haven't.
Anyway, we're like seconds over and out at this point. We are done. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Bye-bye.